Anyway,
I am with Scott Houston, who I became familiar with the piano help, which is the piano guy.
Piano guy,
PBS,
right?
But the piano help that I got, being a non-piano player. But when I was a kid, I was a piano
But you are now, by golly.
and you simplified everything with kind of the lead sheet technique.
Sure.
And you kind of took the mystery out of playing.
Right.
So that people could enjoy it. Yeah. So that's where I became familiar with you at, and I guess you're well known for that.
Yeah, we just wrapped up this show. We just finished season 14, and the production is actually over on the original Piano Guy show. We've had 186 episodes.
Season 14?
Yeah, season 14, 186 episodes. We've won 8 Emmy Awards, so it's been good. It's been a good run. I'm really proud of the body of work. We've got, whatever that is, 93 hours of content that couldn't be prouder of. And I think as I get old and crusty, it's probably going to be kind of my life's I don't know what the right word, archive of quality work is going to be all those shows. And they were good. They taught a lot of people. It's good. But we put that one to bed. But now we just announced a brand new show. So,
what is that show?
The new show is called Music Makers with Scott Houston, and it's not going to be piano related per se. It's not a how-to show either. Instead, it's going to be an interview show where I'm doing long form, one guest per half hour. Shows with music personalities, big names that we would want to know, and a nice long conversation. And the common thread that will run through all the shows is not necessarily how heavy the player is or no big come on and show me all you got type of things. Instead, it's going to be this conversation about how has music possibly affected your life? Because we all have these interesting stories of where'd you start? Did you start in high school? Did you why'd you start? Because you're trying to impress the chicks or, whatever the funny thing is. The reality is that there's usually great backstories on all these successful people in the music business, whether they're musicians or producers or whatever. And I'm going to try to delve in and do that. So it's going to be fun. I'm really excited about the new stuff, and it's kind of fun to be working on a new project. And we've just had great response so far here from NAMM. And it fits so well into the recreational music making thing that they're promoting so heavily. So it seems to be a good fit for the time right now. We have producers that are actually, it's producers that partner with me on the show and was a partner on the entire first series. And they are with me on this new one. And we have been kind of in development on the show for 6 or 8 months, knowing that the Piano Guy was winding down and what was the next thing we were going to do. And yeah, I'm happy to report NAMM is one of the underwriters on the show as well as others, and we're really having kind of a good response trying to find underwriting for the show, as well as right now I'm out fishing for guests, so it's going to be a fun thing. It'll be a public television show, and we're going to probably launch, the actual first shows will start airing in September sometime. We're going to be shooting the whole pilot season between now and then, and we're going to be it's going to be on location, so we're probably going to make a trip out to LA and find some guests there. Probably going to make a trip to Nashville, probably going to make one hopefully to New Orleans, and probably one to New York. And between those trips, we'll get enough guests for the first 11 seasons, or less 11 shows, excuse me.
I think you're going to have no problem finding people who want to talk about that.
Well, you hope, and again, the hope is that you don't find somebody that's kind of a pain in the hind end as far as being a prima donna, and you want to stay away from people like that. But I think for most people, they're in a position where they want to share how they came up through the ranks. And again, this is nothing to prep for. They don't need to come on and play heavy on the show. It's just something to come on and chat about how cool music has been in their life. You know what? Whether you consider yourself a quote-unquote musician or you're just playing for fun, that's okay, because we're also getting the same good out of it. I'm sure that the joy you get from sitting down and playing drums for a while, joy I used to get when I was playing drums all the time, versus the joy I get playing piano, whatever. We do it because it feels good, and there's cool things about being able to play. And I think it's an important message to non-professionals, if you want to even call them that you're getting the same good out of it, having fun doing what you're doing, as some guy who's up working a gig in a stadium. It's still making music, and really making music is, that we were kind of adamant about picking the title we did, and it's called Music Makers. It's not called Musicians for that reason. We were intent on spreading that kind of recreational music making message. And the good news is we're now going to be able to spread it to everybody that's not a piano player, whereas kind of by necessity with the Piano Guide through the first 14 seasons, we were stuck, pretty much just talking to piano players. So that'll be cool.
Well, you started out as a drummer, and a lot of people parents try to keep their kids away from the drums with the noise level.
I don't know.
Did you start out, I started out on the piano and finally got to the drums after years of effort.
It sounds like you're pitching me underhand, but there's a funny story. It's in the foreword of my first book, Play Piano in a Flash. This is a true story. Whenever I was, 6, 7, or 5, I don't know, when I was a little kid, and I finally made the formal announcement to my parents, who were both musicians. Said, that's it, I want to play the drums. And of course, they're, the drum joke coming here, they're mortified because they wanted a musician in the family, right? So they put on.
Exactly.
Try the feel.
How do you get a drummer off the porch?
I don't know.
Paying for the pizza.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's it.
There you go. So they, with that same kind of thing, the deal was, my dad struck with me, was, all right, if you're really set on drums, that's cool, go do it. But for every drum lesson you got to take a piano lesson. So
you bartered.
So I went kicking and screaming for about a year and a half, taking piano lessons as a little kid, and then quit and continued to play drums. And actually, drums was my major instrument all the way up through school, and did that. And I didn't start playing piano seriously playing piano until I was at IU, and did that for a while. And so it's kind of a funny thing that now my family continues to shame me on a regular basis, saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe you make a living playing piano, and you're the worst piano player ever." And you spend all that time on drums, and you don't do that ever anymore. So it's been kind of a funny switch in my life. And had I not done that, I wouldn't have been as good a mallet player as I was at those ages. And I was a pretty decent drummer.
Oh, okay.
And so I was.
So you studied all the instruments like a percussion major.
Oh, God,
now, were you a percussion major at IU?
I had to get in.
Okay.
There's I don't know if you've ever talked to anybody about. No, actually, it's okay. George Gaber at that point was the head of the program, and Phil got in, which is good news. So I got in the program and ended up being in the jazz program. Played in Dave Baker's program for a few years. Actually, I didn't. By the time I'd gotten out of the program, I didn't play in Dave's band, but I played in Tom Sparrow's band for a couple of years.
Do you want to say a happy birthday to David Baker on his 80th birthday this weekend?
Oh, is it this weekend?
Because yes, it is.
Unbelievable.
And half of the guys in my story on Drumline about Kenny and his students are celebrating with David Baker.
Oh, well, how fun.
And half of them are here at NAMM.
How fun. Yeah, absolutely. Happy birthday, Dave. Dave's a good old friend of the family. He and my father were at IU in the same years, in the 50s.
So they're there writing the story for me, taking some pictures.
Ah, that's great.
And we're going to put it up and talk about that.
Dave and Lida, if you see this day, I doubt you will. Happy birthday.
Oh, well, you know what? We'll get it to him.
No, that's all right. Yeah.
Guess where it's going to be?
I don't know.
On the internet. And we'll just set up and say, go there and check out Scott.
Well, happy birthday, Dave.
So,
great experiences there. Couldn't have been a better scene. And then as it turns out, while I was there, I started playing piano. And I ended up not. I was just talking about the fact, it was an interesting thing when I was in college. You come to this conclusion, I think a lot of musicians go through this, and they end up being kind of bitter about it for the rest of their life, that, you get this point where, it's kind of an oddball analogy, but I promise it's going somewhere. In athletics, the cream really rises to the top. You don't get anybody playing college athletics that wasn't the very best of what they did in high school. And then college guys go to the pro. You don't get anybody in the pros that wasn't the absolute best that they were at college level. So it's not as if there's any accidents that people, so by the time you get to the pros, you absolutely have the best athletes in whatever the sport is, right? Right. Well, that is not the case in music. And there's a point that at some point you say, I could work as hard, I could woodshed as, when I was at IU and I'm practicing 6-8 hours a day, and you could woodshed till you were bleeding, and that's still not going to guarantee you success in the music business. Because every time you do that, there's going to be somebody out there, and I just mean this from a purely, musicianship standpoint. We've all heard them. There's some band, you'll hear a tune, you think, oh my God, those guys are terrible players, and they're killing it, and they've got a top 10 hit or whatever it is. And I went through that phase of after we got out of school, and we were kind of doing the starving musician thing, and got in bands. We're kind of having a little cup of coffee, getting close to getting a record deal, and you play that game for a few years. And it was kind of at the end of that 4 or 5 years that was the big kind of epiphany. Was what? I could be doing this for the rest of my life, and no matter how hard I work, it doesn't really guarantee that it's not going to equate to potentially me getting a good record deal or me going out and being an next big hit. And I wasn't morose about it in any way, but it was just that at that point you say, you know what, then you need to go out and figure out how to make a living in the music business, and it may or may not be as a performer. And that was when I kind of got cool with the fact that there's a lot of ways to do it, a lot of ways to be successful in the business, and it may or may not be the fact that I'm going to be the next, hot rod rock and roll drummer. I was playing a lot of piano at that point, and that's where we started veering off into that other thing.
You consider yourself an educator now?
That's a strong word for it, but yeah, I'm joking. Yeah, I do. The reality is, what I really consider myself more than anything is someone who's just trying to bring people off the sidelines and get them in the game. And if, so I suppose that would be education, but more than anything, it's probably proselytizing.
Or inspiration.
Yeah, there you go. Hopefully your inspiration, you're trying to get people off and say, hey, come in and just enjoy enjoy playing. This is not about being the world's greatest player. You're highly likely you're going to never go out and do this for a living. You know, I'm talking to the other 98, 99% of the population, not the 1% that are all at this convention playing well. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's, you know, if there's a common thread through everything we've done and what I will do, and especially with the new show, you know, this Music Maker show is going to be about that same message of saying, look, you can have fun playing in a lot of different ways, and I don't care what your instrument is. Sit your fanny down and have some fun. That's what we're doing this for. Don't think there's only one path, and that path leads to becoming highly proficient and becoming a professional. Because there's another, 99 people for every one that's ever made it in the industry that's really, considers himself a quote-unquote musician that are just out having fun being music makers. And again, that's why we chose the title for the show. We very clearly didn't call that show The Musicians. We call it Music Makers.
Right, and you got the philosophy for fun playing with the piano guy.
That's exactly
Your philosophy is not different.
Not at all.
Your format is different.
That's right, and that's why I think it's going to be really cool that with the interviews that we do with the guests, I'm going to be shocked if they all say, oh yeah, I just woodshedded and studied really heavily with serious players. That isn't going to be it. Some of the best players out there are people that have, I learned from my grandma, I knew my aunt played in church and I learned to play gospel music going to church every time. Who knows what these stories are going to be, but that's what I'm thrilled to kind of unearth, and it's going to be cool because we're really not going to know going into the interviews what it is they're going to do, and I just think it's going to be entertaining conversations, assuming the guests we get are interesting enough people. Now, you know what I need to do? It's going to be fun on this show, Mike. I'm going to finally get back to my drumming roots, and I'm going to have some heavy drummers on, it'll be fun. I don't know. Well, I don't know. We're not there yet, but at least I'll be able to talk turkey.
I can hook you up.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
I got them.
That doesn't surprise me.
I know the best.
Cool.
But you do too. Sting, who is obviously successful.
Yeah.
He says, music is its own reward.
Yeah.
And
well, at some point, at the end of the day, to get back about this whole message, the fun I have playing music is not necessarily playing in front of people, and it's not necessarily going out and working gigs. The fun I have playing music is at the end of the night when I get home late after I've been doing accounting at the office or some nutty thing, and I get home and my wife and daughter are in bed, so I can sit down at a piano or I put my headphones on and I just play for the sake of playing. And not to sound hokey, but that's what making music's all about. And at some point, I think that message is healthy. It's healthy to say that to people, that's okay. That's just as valid as going out and doing this for a living. It's just enjoying what you're doing and making music. We'll be able to you can find out about the show right now at musicmakerstvshow.com. That's musicmakers, plural, tvshow.com.
And then it will be airing.
We'll start airing episodes in the middle of August. Middle of September, probably. We're going to be shooting season 1 from now through then, and the shows will start airing on PBS nationwide sometime in the middle of September.
And are you traveling to your musicians, or?
Yeah, it's going to be. We're shooting on location in all these spots, so I'll be going out to the people. We'll take a small crew and probably a producer and a couple shooters, and do them that way. So it ought to be. It's different. It's going to be fun for me. A real departure. Our old show was a big confusing, a big studio shot with 5 cameras, and
this is a bit more intimate.
Much more. Yeah, kind of
show.
A la 60 Minutes interviews,
Or Carson Daly on location type.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I enjoy those because it kind of takes you away from this is a formal interview. Let's go relax.
Yeah.
In a normal environment where things are happening.
Yeah, well, we're going to be hanging out a little bit. It's if in some way some guy's a guitar player or something, he has guitar sitting on his lap, we may hear some playing, but by definition, this is not a performance show, so it's not as though we're going to be going in and catching cats, while they're playing gigs or anything. It's going to be, more conversational than that.
Well, I can't wait to see it.
Thanks, I appreciate it. I appreciate you getting the word about it.
Yeah, we're gonna have it up on DRUMline so everybody knows about it.
Cool.
We'll hook you up with some drummers.
All right.
If you run out of real musicians, we'll get a drummer.
There you go.
I'd like to fill the gap.
There you go. That's perfect. Like I said earlier, the good news is I am officially licensed to tell drum jokes because I am one.
That's right.
It's like attorneys. You got to be an attorney to tell attorney jokes.
You got to be in the brotherhood.
I am in there, so I may be the piano guy, but I promise I actually play much better drums than piano.
Honorary member. Wait, actual member of the.
I'm in. That's right. I'm in.
You're in for life.
Got it.
All right. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. Thanks for the interview. Have fun.
Good luck.
Go NAMM.
All right.